I'm George Leonard, and I'm the Audience Development and Outreach Intern at the Glasgow Building Innovation Trust. This is the 34th edition of the festival this year, all of which Glasgow Building Innovation Trust has been to since 1990. The festival now happens in every region of Scotland and is coordinated nationally by the Scottish Civic Trust. So I encourage you to check out the national website, goldurbanday.org.uk, and find out what is on in areas around you. We're very grateful to the University of Glasgow also for hosting us here at the Advanced Research FNGA. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Kathy Dillon and Zara Gladman for their hard work in making this happen. The ARC is the home of the collaborative research at the University of Glasgow, research partners and ideas together from across campus, the city and beyond. The ground floor, where we are now, is open to the public year-round and hosts a wide range of events and projects inspired by the university's research. You can scan the QR code at reception to subscribe to the What's Song newsletter and get involved. The ARC is also host to the Explorathon this weekend, a programme of events happening on Saturday and Sunday, showcasing some of the incredible research that goes on in the building. We have a huge programme this year, around 250 events. So if the event that you were hoping to go is now fully booked, please sure to check the website, the no booking necessary category, and the in-person events category, lots of those who apply the bookings. I would like to say a huge thank you as well to our fundraisers, Glasgow City Council and the Glasgow City Heritage Trust, to our sponsor Denton's, and to all of the sponsors who make this event free. Thank you to our amazing volunteers who welcome you today. The festival would not be possible without our amazing volunteers, so thank you to them. If you feel like making a donation to help us keep the event free, you can do so by texting Doors Open to 785. Text costs £5 plus one standard rate message. Those details are on the screen behind me. You can also make a cash donation in one of our donation buckets. There's some, they look like this. And on the way out. We also are able to take card donations, and one of our volunteers will be able to help with that. That's very fun. I hope you enjoy this event, and we would like to hear what you think. We have a festival survey, and if you fill it in with a chance, you have a chance of winning winning a £100 voucher in our local Glasgow business of your choice. The survey is linked on the homepage of our website. There is a QR code on our flyer which you can take straight there. In the unlikely event of a fire alarm, please proceed through the doors behind you and across the foyer to the entrance. On with the talk. So, Superhero City is run by Yvonne Skipper, Dr. Skipper. Is a senior lecturer in psychology based out of the School of Education at the University of Glasgow. She has published more than 30 articles and book chapters on educational psychology. She has an expertise in working with partner organisations such as local educational authorities, schools and charities to co-create interventions to improve educational outcomes. She is an award-winning educator, having been the runner-up in the UK Higher Education Psychology Teacher of the Year and a winner of the Outreach Academic of the Year award. She also has received recognition of the impact of her research through an award-winning award for mobilising research into action from Emerald International. She is passionate about knowledge, exchange, engagement and outreach. Dr. Skipper is currently co-editing a special issue of the British Journal of Developmental Psychology focusing on how children and young people learn more about who and what information. So, Dr. Skipper, everyone.
Delighted to be with you today, and I will be talking to you about some of the things I love the most, superheroes and psychology. And we're going to be doing a bit of an odd tool today. We're going to be doing a bit of psychology of architecture, a bit of psychology of superheroes, a bit about psychology of helping. So hopefully it will be of interest. I'll be asking for a little bit of participation, nothing too strenuous. Nothing too strenuous, just a little bit to hear from you guys. So, oh, that's not right. Don't worry, we're not starting with this. Might be. Okay, so first of all, some of you might have studied psychology, some of you might know what it is, some of you might have kind of a layperson idea of psychology. The psychology itself is a scientific study of mind and behaviour. When I tell people I'm a psychologist, you know the two things I'm going to say. One, What am I thinking? Two. I had a dream last night. I was being chased by a marshmallow. What does that mean? These are my two things, right? In the pub, that's why I get asked, okay? Don't do that. We don't do that, but what we do is study people's minds, their thoughts, their behaviours, why people do the things they do. So that got me thinking that it'd be a really cool thing to do, to look at the psychology of superheroes, because of course, like, superheroes are the people who are running towards danger. They're the ones who are helping, they're the ones who put themselves out there in a way that not all of us always do. So that's where this idea came from. On the way, we'll be scooting through some psychology of architecture and some of the superhero films that have been filmed in our wonderful city. I started off preparing this talk and I found this quote by Winston Churchill. We shape our buildings and afterwards our buildings shape us. Thinking about how the designs of our cities can help us have good mental health and well-being, how they can help us improve about ourselves, or at times how they can make us feel absolutely miserable and we're stuck in traffic jams and we think, if only that could have been filmed for like 2 more minutes, and if only this road was like a one-way street. But so one thing I found when I did a bit of research on this is building facades, the front of the building, what it looks like, actually has quite a strong impact on our psychology, on the way we feel, and on our mental well-being. So if we see facades of buildings that are complicated, they've got lots of interesting things going on, we've got sculptures and gargoyles and things like that, it's quite good for our mental health and well-being. But if it's really simple and monotonous, that tends to have a negative impact. So I thought about this and I thought, right, which buildings do we have in Glasgow that do this? Here's one I thought, complicated facade. I love this building. Everybody does. Sitting there, have a snack, you look at that building and you think, yeah, this is interesting. There's lots of spaces for our eyes to flow through. It's quite interesting, it's quite engaging, and these sorts of things are good for us. It's not just, pretty. It's actually good for our mental health and well-being to live in cities that are complicated, look beautiful, versus other buildings that are maybe not so interesting. No offense if this is, this is part of cost and things like that, right? But buildings like this, they don't tend to do as much for our mental well-being. It tends to be a bit boring and bland. We don't tend to enjoy looking at them. Nobody sits and eats their lunch looking at buildings like this. And how they tested this was they got people to wear a Fitbit. So one of these things on your wrist, and they want to answer a questionnaire. So psychologists love a questionnaire. And so we wanted to see what was happening. I wasn't part of this, but they wanted to see what's happening physiologically, your heart rate, but also what was happening in your mind, like what you were thinking and feeling. And so what they did was they got people to walk through a city. It was actually New York. And to start with, they got them to walk past, the typical kind of New York City, just glass at the front, nothing really happened. And they found that people's heart rate kind of slowed. It was almost like their whole body was like, they weren't really enjoying it. And actually they started walking quicker through that space. It was almost like they didn't want to be there. So the pace actually sped up as they went past this. And they reported that their mood was more negative walking in this space. But when they got to one of these kind of areas where there's lots of restaurants and shopping and lots of bits going on, lots of different styles of architecture, the little the things that come out of the culture, the multicoloured, awnings, thank you. Yeah, the awnings, things like that. They felt more positive, the heart rate went up, there was actual physiological impact. So it's not just in your head thinking, oh, this is awful, your body is responding to it too. And that got me thinking, this is quite interesting. It's not just what's going on in our head, it's what's going on in our bodies as well. So thinking about superheroes. If you were to live in Captain Marvel's city here, this was a picture I found. This is pretty, it's cool, but probably not great for your mental health living here. You're probably not going to be very, very pleasant. It's all kind of very flat and very angular, whereas if you were going to pick, you might choose to live in one kind of that. Lots of interesting facades, lots of patterns. I thought actually they did a great job here with these cities, the shapes in it as well. And also in Wakanda, lots of lovely green space, which is really important for our mental health and well-being in terms of architecture. So we know that living in places where there's green or blue space, so green space, forests, parks, things like that, blue space, the ocean, lakes, rivers, ponds, all those things are really good for our mental health. And we know that, for example, if you are in a hospital room, if you get sick, and you're in a hospital room that has real greenery, you get better quicker than if you're in a hospital room that is in the car park. So this isn't just one of those things, it is a demonstrable impact. It's a really good impact on us. That's why during COVID, all of us were desperate to get to the park, to get out to be in that kind of green, natural space. And one reason that this might be is because natural spaces are very complex. There's lots going on. There's textures, there's trees, there's spiders, there's little things to look out on the ground. There's flowers. It's changing every day. You go to the pond, you see the frogs spawn, you see the frogs. So that complexity is actually really good for us. We don't like looking at boring stuff. We like to look at interesting things. So, again, thinking about superheroes, if you were to live in New York City, not much green there, if anybody's ever been. There's Central Park. That's lovely. But if you don't live in Central Park, I don't think there's actually a tree in New York, and maybe one very sad one with a fence around it. But in other places, for example, Iceland, we're picking locations to live in. See lots of lovely blue space and lots of lovely green space. So there's things we can do to make our environment better, complicated facades, and lots of blue and green space if we can. So I'd be thinking, wow, we've got a lot of superhero films here in Glasgow. So here are some shots of our wonderful city after the backdrop. And you will see they did not choose boring buildings. They chose interesting ones. So this is Glasgow Cathedral. Here's Batman. Here is a car chase, and again you can see interesting facades here. Gotham City is the kind of background here. The globe, Gotham Globe being used in King Street, and Gotham Pawnbroking. So our city does have these beautiful spaces, which is why people are so keen to film here. Very sad we don't ever get to see that girl. Apparently it's been entirely shelved, and we'll never get to see that movie. Don't know why. If anybody has an insider scoop, please tell me. I would be very interested to know what actually happened backstage. And part of what location scouts are doing is they're looking for buildings and spaces that tell stories, that you look at them and you think, yeah, that's the bad guy, or that's the good guy, or, to give a sense of awe, wonder, these beautiful big spaces, or to create a kind of feeling of claustrophobia and hemmed-inness from other ones. So here is an example of a building telling a story. Some of you will know who lives here. If you don't know who lives here, what sort of person lives here? Iron Man, yeah. Okay, spoiler alert, yeah. But what sort of person? If you don't know who Iron Man is, what sort of person do you think they are? Rich, yeah, they're clearly rich, yeah, they got a pool. What else? Pretentious, yeah, I think it's a little bit pretentious, like living life on the edge, literally. His house is about to fall off the cliff. Yeah, a bit pretentious, quite modern, quite funky, clearly not a traditionalist here. I think someone who's kind of pushing forwards. Yeah, there's one example. What about if I put someone in this building? What sort of person might I put in this building if I was going to film something here? Alfred. Sorry? Alfred Batman. Yeah, Alfred Batman, yeah. We're just looking at yeah. What else? Somebody clever, yeah, you could use it as an academic building, but Professor Xavier from X-Men, yeah, I feel like he would live in a place I love him. It's amazing. If I had like one of those, those celebrity dinners, he'd be one of the people I'd invite him. So if you want to. Yeah, that's a good example. What about this one? Who might put here? Or what might put here? Rapunzel, yeah, that's fine. Rapunzel is fine. Yeah, that's a good style. So a bit more traditional fairy tale sort of thing here, maybe. Yeah. The Harry, yes, and the bell ring in the tower, yeah, something like that. Any other thoughts? Sorry? Dracula? Yeah, interesting thoughts. So again, a different style of building, a different sort of person, someone's hiding something in a building like this. And one more, who would you put here? This is a lot of hate building, right? What sort of person or setting might you put here?
Sorry, it's beautiful.
Any other thoughts you might think here? I think that would be like a random, like, it always be like a good comeback thing, or this, chick could come out or something like that, and must be out kind of thing, So these are all kind of examples of high buildings. We've already established who might be in them just by looking at the outside. Who might expect to be in them. person who might want to be in. So, and octopus, yeah, an octopus feeling, it's a bit like a seashell. It's a really good point, yeah. So we could have an evil Dr. Octopus maybe blasting his way out of the building. Amazing. So we've got the architecture and then we've got the feeling in space. So you will come in through the arc here. I don't know how you felt when you walked in. It's quite a kind of nice day. When it's raining in here, it's pretty and green and grey, but we try to get as much natural light in. And the spaces that we're in can make us feel good, happy, or they can make us feel not so good. So what about if you're in this space here? Do you know where this is? Yeah. Up the cloisters, yeah. How might you feel? Like, what does that space make you feel? Magic, yeah, magic, Hogwarts. Some people associate it with a lot of people stopping around with broomsticks at the moment. We just got here, the Precious Week. Some people say scared. If they know this is a university, they remember maybe coming on their first day of university. Some people find it an intimidating space. Yeah, I mean, it's quite dark and yeah, it can be quite creepy when they don't have Christmas lights. Christmas lights are very festive. But yeah, it can feel quite a creepy place if you were to light that kind of dark. It could look a bit Halloween-y. Definitely popping out twisted zombies. Yeah, so you can create that sort of space, feeling within a space. What about this space? How does that make you feel? Yeah, come on, space one. It's a sort of awe feeling, right? A big space.
Oh, yeah.
Quite often in churches and places of worship, they're made very big, partly because to remind you of that feeling of being small and being part of other things, part of the acoustics, of course, and the sound moving through them. But you know, churches especially quite often designed in that way. You come in that small foyer, and then you open that door and you get that amazing big feeling. We use it in our museums as well. That sort of sense of being small in a big space. It can be quite a powerful feeling. It also helps to feel connected to the other small people within that space. What about this one? Anyone seen Loki yet? No? Yeah, somebody's seen Loki. Okay. This is a Loki TV show. It's quite hard to see. But you can see it's kind of 80s, everything's kind of green, and it's a processing plant. So he's basically in trouble and he's standing in the queue. When I see buildings like this, it makes me think, ugh. It's not, I don't want to hang out there. I don't want to take my lunch. I feel like I'm going to be waiting in a 3-hour queue with someone who's just filing papers and actually isn't doing anything at all, but is just filing papers, right? Automatically, I look at that low ceiling, making me feel kind of already a bit oppressed, that sort of, orange and green, colour scheme, all these things are kind of combining to make you think, I do not want to be here. And one more. What do you feel in a space like that? This is Axelrod. Feel interested. Feel small again. Sense of awe. You're meeting the gods when you go here. So I thought, hanging out. Just hammer. So, again, space that feels big and makes you feel like you are a peaceful person. Oh, one more. I did read this one. How would you feel in here? Some people are like, tree. Yeah, trapped. So no windows. Yeah, no windows. That make people feel very claustrophobic. So if you put a window into this room, it's automatically made it a bigger space. I can see out. You guys, if you turn around, if you see out, please don't leave. So we can create a sort of feeling of space. This one has no windows. It has all that artificial light. I find if I ever have a cold and I'm in rooms like that, I feel even worse. When it's just that fake light coming in and just getting more and more like, I just need to get some fresh air. If you are the cleaner in your household, you might think fingerprints all over the place. This might be a space that doesn't feel very welcoming, but it might give you a sense of excitement if you know what it is. If you're into superheroes, yes, so that might feel exciting to you. So, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about getting lost. I do not have a great sense of direction. When I navigate places, I tend to do things like I drive along and then I turn left at the pub and then I turn right at the roundabout, things like that. My partner can do mental maps. So if we get knocked off, he's like, oh, we just parallel. I don't have a clue. Once I'm off my route, I'm like, where's the pub? I don't know where I am, completely lost. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. Yeah, some people get easily lost. I'm very easily lost. And certain buildings, you ever been in a building, you're like, what is happening here? Why is this not easy? My door should be easy to find the room, and you're walking around in circles. I don't think anybody necessarily intended to design buildings that are difficult to find their way around, but there are buildings we know that are very difficult to navigate. they have a pretty negative impact on our mental health. If we can't even find the room to find the person, how on earth are we going to have a good experience when we get in there? So I had a little look into this, right? Forgive me for this is a little bit, I just wanted to show you because I thought it was interesting, right? These are two different hospitals. So hospital A over here, and hospital B. And the red lines are the things people use the most. So let's say this is the front door here, and let's say this is the front door here. So the red is where people go the most. Yellow is where they go the next most, and then blue and pale blue are the ones they go to the least. And when I was looking into this, I found that people prefer this hospital. And you can see why, right? If I get lost here, I just turn around and go back here. All the main things I want are in this line here. Whereas here, I get up over here. How on earth do I get back? I'm lost. This is the point where I'm on my phone trying to frantically Google things. I'm just trying to find a nice person and be like, please take me to where I need to go. So literally the design of our buildings can help us to feel nice or not so nice. And that made me think about this building. Anybody know this building? St. Andrew's building. This is where I work. I work in a room just over here. This building is a nightmare. It's over. This is the main building here. This is the West Wing. People talk about it as like in beauty, it's like, don't go to the West Wing. They don't like the West Wing, right? Because the corridors don't actually match up. So you can only go to the West Wing from floor 5 and floor 3. Not 1, 2, 4, or 6. Also, when you go across, it changes from floor 3 to 4 floors. So suddenly you're on a different floor, having just walked into the other building. And also, then when you come back into here and you get the lift, one of them does not go to the ground floor. So you can only get the lift down to the ground floor. And then you've got to go find another lift to get down to the ground. As expressions, we get when there are a lot of students walking around, which is exactly what I was doing when I first got here. This is a confusing building, not ideal. I think this was kind of an issue later. But these sorts of buildings can help people to feel like, oh, yes, I can find my way around, or not. A couple of weeks ago, we hosted the biggest educational research conference in the world, in the university, and there was a whole host of people from all over the globe just walking around campus going, I can't find anything. Literally, like that was the most important thing. I said in my talk, like, welcome to Hogwarts, the rules change, because everybody was late for all the first sessions, nobody could find anything. But typically these older buildings, you know where things are. And it made me think a little bit about some real world examples of this as well. So this was a housing estate in St. Louis. It's been demolished now. And it was one of these genius moments where people were like, we need to house lots of people. Let's build up. Let's just put people one on top of the other. We know people don't typically like to live in these sorts of things, but they did some extra things to make it extra tricky. So their lift didn't stop on every floor, stopped on every other floor. So if you were unlucky enough to live in the other one, you then had to carry all your shopping back down the stairs. Some of them didn't have trash chutes, so you'd have to carry your trash up to one of the floors or down to another one. And there was really bad ventilation, there was really bad services. It was just an absolute nightmare. It really didn't live long. People hated living there, and full on they demolished it and put up, well, reasonable kind of buildings here. Whereas in Cyprus, they had the same issue. They needed to house lots and lots of people. But what they thought was, hey, let's not just build up, because once you're up there, it's hard to get out. You know, it's not accessible for people. It doesn't create a community, because generally, if you live in flats that aren't well insulated, what do? You fall out with your neighbour. Why are you wearing concrete shoes? Why are you playing music? You know, nobody really wants to have to listen to other people's nonsense all the time, right? We like a little bit of space. So what they did was they created very, very small houses. These were only like 2 or 3 rooms each, very small rooms. But all of them have a garden, like a little kind of outside space. We talked about like the green space, which is really important. All of them were pedestrianised. There were no cars allowed in this area. To allow more buildings, to allow a community. Because people are kind of sitting outside, they chat to each other, there's a nice little fountain here, people put the plants out, and this has been a massive success. And actually, it's become so successful, it's now an Instagram place where you can go in and see yourself, so I'm sure maybe that might put them off now, people might remember that as Instagram is outside their houses all the time. But you can see there are things we can do in our designs that make communities, that make people feel happier, that make people want to belong in these spaces. So I know that the theme of this year's Open Doors Festival is to do with senses. So thinking about sight, obviously, what you can see. Thinking about touch. In architecture, you're touching the carpet right now. You might be touching, obviously, the seats. You might be touching the walls. You might be thinking of the temperature. Is it warm or cold in here? How does it feel? What can you smell in a room? You know, sometimes I love when you go to an old museum, you have that sort of musty smell. Benches are coming, like some book bits and Indiana Jones, so you know, so that sense of smell and sound. Shoes on the floor, you know, what noise that makes you echo if you're wearing like high heels, clicking as you go through. Does that make you feel good or scared? Echoes, you know, some buildings are designed in a way where you feel like you can make these conversations. I've real trouble blocking out lots of noise, you know, when there's multiple sounds coming in. How does that make you feel? And obviously taste, we can't usually taste the building, but there is some psychology that if you have red around, things taste sweeter. So I'm going to show you some spaces now from superhero films, and I want you to think about your senses and how those senses might make you feel in these environments. So we're back to this one, which I know we didn't like, and then we've also got Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum here. So thinking about things you might, what would they smell like, first of all? Yeah? You think that would feel kind of old? Yeah? What did you say? The one that's like chlorine? Like chlorine, yeah, cleaning products, yeah. You know, that's not necessarily the most welcoming smell. That sort of musty smell might be better. What sounds might you hear in these different spaces? Silence, yeah?
White noise.
Yeah, white noise, that's on. Like we've got in this room a little bit. You know, all the kind of air conditioning units maybe. Again, not the most welcoming sound, although sometimes it's meant to help you sleep if you've got noisy neighbours, white noise machines could help. What about here? What might we hear here with the parquet floor? Yeah, echoes, yeah. And then, of course, if there's a big battle going on, you know, that's part of it, when they come crashing through the window. Yeah, what about these ones then? So, for those of you who don't know, this is Scarlet Witch and Vision's house from WandaVision. If you're not up to date, then it's just Disney Plus TV series, and this is the Helicarrier. So thinking about your senses, what might you sense in these things and how might it make you feel? Sorry? Cake. Oh yeah. So yeah, maybe they just baked something. It feels quite homely, yeah, I agree. Always imagine smelling like, you know, whatever they've just made. Yeah. Soft carpets feels quite nice on the feet, I think. You know, when you take your socks off and you fall into a nice thick carpet. Certainly not here, you're going to hear shoes clicking against things. I think this space is echoey. I think you hear like people walking along that walkway before they got to you. So?
Like the bottom one.
Scream, yeah. It's pretty dark over here, yeah. So screaming, yeah. Kicks and screams, okay. So we've just about summed those up in 2 words, yeah. And I think I've got one more. Oh no, I don't. That's it. Okay, surprise. Okay, so now we've moved on from architecture, and now we're going to talk about the psychology of superheroes and why superheroes are so cool. And the thing I'm going to start off with is a very, very quick, I will play this video if you don't mind, Ninja Kids. This is a video, so I want to show it to you just rough, because the next section I'm going to talk about is creative play. And that is the play we do when we're children, what we do as adults too, where we pretend to be other people. So if you have ever been like, I'm Superman, that is what creative play is, and I'm going to be talking a lot about how good it is for our development. So I've got a little video from here about it's just some kids playing creatively. It's got quite high production value compared to my play when I was a child, but I think you're going to enjoy watching the Ninja Kids.
Thank you for watching Justice League Ninja Kids. Make sure to like and subscribe. This video took a lot of teamwork. And if you're doing something that's too hard to do alone, do it with a team.
I'm Batman. Cute purse.
Oh.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
What do you want from me?
Fear. They're attracted to fear.
Damn it, it's a monster!
Batman.
Okay, we've got there. So I want to do that just because to take you back to when you would play probably not quite as cool as that, but the way you doing and this is a really important part of our life because we do want in that, right? That was like a fun there's a lot of things. So first of all, we've got an answer. I'm going to be back. We've got an answer. I'm going to be back when I so there's quite a lot of things to say. Then as I'm saying, you should both agree with me. It's a giant monster. So we're doing quite a lot of well communication, we're doing quite a lot of, interpersonal connection in these sorts of play, which is really, really important for development. It's a lot more important. It's also having our physical skills, cartwheeling, pushing each other, all those sorts of things. So I want to talk a little bit about important creative play. Superheroes play a really big part of our creative play. And one thing that creative play also helps us to develop is a theory of mind. Have you heard this term before? You might have heard it's mind movements. Basically, it's my understanding that you have a brain and you have thoughts and they're different to mine. So my understanding that I can be really happy that I got a Batman for Christmas and you can be really sad because you want it London. So it's understanding you have different thoughts and feelings to me and understanding that people have different views and different viewpoints. And we start to develop this around about the age of 4. This is why toddlers are so difficult, is because they are like, clearly I want this, and you should all want it, it's amazing. And that's part of the issue when we're young, is that we can't really put ourselves in other people's shoes very easily. So only as we get a little bit older, we start to understand this at the basic level. Maybe your mum's feeling sad today, so maybe I won't, jump around. I might think, I'll be extra kind to her today. And one of the ways we do this in psychology, so this is a really important thing in developmental psychology, is this ability. Once we develop it, we can do all sorts of things. It's one of the ways we test it. I've got 2 videos, but I'd like to maybe show the Smarties one, if you don't mind, please. And so here is a child who is playing with a box of Smarties. You'll see the experiment asking questions and see. It's a bit of an old video, apologies, but you'll get the kind of the gist of what we're trying to do.
Now, Elizabeth, what do you think's inside this box?
Smarties.
Have a look inside.
Can't take the lid off.
Oh, well, let me have a go, shall I? You ready? Say go. Go. What's in there? What's that?
Pencils.
Oh, right. Should we put them back in the box?
Yeah. What are they for?
Should we put the lid on? Now, can you remember what's inside the box?
Pencils.
And what did you think was in the box?
Pencils.
Did you? Now, I'm going to show this box to Jay in a minute. What will Jay think is in the box?
Pencils.
Ready? Good. After you've mopped up the...
So you can see here, the child.
I used one simple webinar presentation to produce $2 million in the past 12 months. It was 100%.
So you can see then that the little guy who's marking box should be Smarties in it, pencils are in it. Now I know pencils are in it. The whole world must know it too, because I know it. So that inability to really get in on the truth, I'm going to know for the evidence, and I'm not going to know this, because I know it too. So that's some of the simple tests that we use. We use another one, which is very famous, called the Sally-Ann test. There's 2 dolls, and one has a ball, and she puts it in a box, and then she goes away, and then one finds it in a different thing, and asks where the doll goes to look. So it's a really interesting thing to try and study, because it's quite, like I say, you're young, you can't have really long, multiple storyline things going on. You can see there quite simply how we can test this in kids and how they do fail, actually. For quite a long time, it takes a little bit of time for them to learn that understanding that you don't know everything about them. And
Strange. I certainly have you moving here. Hang on a second.
slide is it's saying the importance of theory of mind. So if you don't have theory of mind, you can't do certain things. Like you can't have a good conversation. We all have failures of theory of mind. We jump in and we're like, let's go. The person's going, beginning of the conversation was. We all have that failure, right? where you just forget that someone doesn't have the context and you come in and you're like, "Oh, because this thing's just forgotten that the other person doesn't know." We all do it sometimes, but that's why sometimes children's conversations are so hard to follow because you're like, whoa, what's the context of talking about here? If we don't have theory of mind, we can't deal with conflict easily because we're like, well, I want this, you should too. So there's no kind of idea of compromise and thinking, okay, well, I know that he wants to do that. And I want to be like, maybe I listen and I can do that. So nobody does that. You know what I mean? So this kind of mental gymnastics we can do. It also means that we have good relationships. If you don't have this ability, you won't understand what your friend is going through and be able to empathize with them and think, okay, I'm going to help them out here, or I'm going to, I know she's feeling sad, so I'm going to do much with her. That helps us to be good friends. And it also helps us to be good liars. People who are good liars have very, very good theory of mind because they know what you're thinking and they know enough of what you're thinking to manipulate what you're thinking to get what they want. So Black Widow, as a spy, probably has excellent theory of mind because she knows what other people are doing, she knows what they want, and she's able to manipulate them effectively. So people who are good at this tend to be very, very good liars and good at getting what they want. And the other nice thing we can do when we're playing is we can practice responses. So I'm probably unlikely to save the city of glass. I might one day. I'm probably not likely to, but through playing creatively, I can see what it feels like to be the hero, to be the one who wins, and to imagine all these things that could happen to me. Or I can try being. I can see what it feels like to be the one who's kind of being, trying different things out. So it's good for us to try these different things. Not like see if I was the really confident hero, or if I was the shy person, or if I was this, or if I was that. It's really good for us to try these different personalities on and see what it would be like to be a good guy or a bad guy. And when we're young, we like clear good guys and bad guys. You watch children's TV, there is the good guy who's usually visually good as well. You can look at him and be like, good guy. And then there's bad guys. So it's very clear who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. And usually the bad guy is redeemed in some way and you understand that all good guys at the end. That's what we like when we're young, it's simple. That's why my mum used to get quite stressed out with me, because when I was a kid and she was talking about stranger danger, I genuinely thought strangers would look like bad guys. And I really didn't imagine that strangers would look just like everybody else. But as we get older, we enjoy grey characters a lot more. So, anyone a Magneto fan here? Yeah. Love me a Magneto. Because he's a grey villain. He's bad, but the reason he's bad is for interesting reasons. So I enjoy that kind of back and forth. Like, why does he behave that way? Is it okay for him to behave that way? Bad things were done to him, it takes out on people. So we enjoy kind of getting into their heads a little bit and imagining it ourselves. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is ask, you're going to listen to me a bit, is to ask one or two of you, I'll just pick out a random, to come up here and stand at the front with me, and also being live streamed across the globe. And come and stand here just for a little minute and tell us about your favourite superhero. So I'll just pick you out randomly from the audience and you can come up here and just give you a minute or so. So just think about what your answer might be. I'll give you some things and then I'll start picking people out. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Did anybody have a nervous response to that? Yes, what does it feel like in your body when you get anxious? What happens? Yeah, the hands get sweaty. Yeah, I read something once that said most people would rather be in the coffin than doing the eulogy. Most people hate public speaking. So yeah, you might find your hands get sweaty. What else happens when you get nervous? When you get scared? Heart rate goes up. It's pretty loud. You laugh, okay, yeah, giggling, yeah. So you're kind of letting out in a different way. So all of these things are your body moving from rest and digest, which you were in the beginning of this talk, hopefully feeling relaxed, with nice little muscles around there, need fight or flight. The body's releasing hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You are getting ready to fight or to run away. You're not going to run away, we're going to fight. But I wanted to give you a little adrenaline rush there to see what it feels like. And basically what happens when your body does that is your body's getting ready to run. So the heart's going faster, you get lots of blood in your hands, in your muscles getting ready to go. I do a lot of work in the theatre, and the number one thing I hear backstage is, I need to pee before people go on stage, because your body's like, I'm not going to carry all this stuff with me if we're going to be running, I want rid of everything. Your pupils tend to as well because you're not focusing on things. So all of these things are happening physiologically in your body. And interestingly enough, these things happen exactly the same if you are excited, angry, afraid. Physiologically, they're pretty similar. There's actually not that much difference. It's just when you call it in your head. So next time you get scared, maybe try to lose some sense, see if that helps, because it is exactly that. Physiologically very, very similar things that happen. Anyone do a roller coaster fan? Yeah, couple of people are a roller coaster fan. You know? So there's a roller coaster in England in Thorpe Park. It's based on the Saw the Ride, which is the jigsaw killers coming to get you basically. And it's quite a scary ride. But what they do is really interesting. You get in the queue, stand for 3 hours, because it's a bar, right? Then you get to the front, and then you go up a bunch of stairs, and you get on the ride. What they do is they hold you at the bottom of the stairs. You can queue on the stairs. It's not going to fall down. They hold you at the bottom. So what happens? You stand at the bottom, get a bit nervous. You walk up all the stairs, and you get to the top, and loads of people are coming on, which is scared. Reason being, they just walked up 3 flights of stairs. Heart's going, hands are sweaty, they're scared, but they're not. It's just that their body's been moving already, so they're scared. I think they're scared before they even got on the ride. So there's all sorts of interesting psychology of theme parks as well. Then you go into these creepy horror mazes. Anyone like those things? You walk through and people jump out. I'm too scared of them. But I like them because there's a lot of psychology about how they design the space. They've got from the floor just a funny angle, and the ceiling touch you. All these things they do to make things creepy. So the reason I'm talking about this is because, do you remember when you were a kid and you played hide and seek? And you were sitting in the cupboard, and your friends were coming to get you, and you were terrified. Your friends aren't going to hurt you, but you still have that fear, don't you? Like, where did they find me? And once you can practice what it feels like to be scared, you're not really going to get hurt. So it allows you to feel these different emotions in your own body, and also start to recognise them in others. What an angry face might look like, and happy face. It helps us to develop those sort of emotion recognition skills as well. Yes, that's what I've just said. And also by watching films, we can look at people and be like, maybe the Hulk, he gets all his emotions out, he wears his heart on his sleeve, right? Maybe I don't want to go back that far, we might be angry, but it might be fun to play being a Hulk and smash things up and try it out sometimes. And one more thing I want to talk about in terms of creative play is there's a lot of ethical dilemmas. So there's these, gems that allow half the world's population. There's all these different technologies which could really cause problems if they fell into the wrong hands. So these sorts of things spark a lot of debates. What should we do? We do have an overpopulation issue. How could we deal with it in a better way than just snapping at half the population? So it gets people thinking a little bit about these ethical dilemmas in a very safe way. Okay. Last little section here. I couldn't resist this. Sorry, I don't know if you've seen this film yet, but it's basically trying to help them get out of prison. Telling them to go and get some specific images, bring back a whole range of apps, and speaker. It's adorable. It's really cute. This is Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yeah, it's time. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I love Groot. Anybody else a Groot fan? Love Groot. So I've got one more video for you, and then this is the last little section. So this is a video I wanted to show you because it's about helping. So most of us are good people. We are generally born with a need or an interest in helping other people. So in this video here, you're going to see some very little children. So they're very, very young, and you're going to see an experimenter struggling with something, and you're going to see what the child does. So the child hasn't been primed in any way. The child is very young, so they've not had lots of opportunities to be rewarded for their behaviour. And we're just going to see how they respond to seeing somebody struggling. So if we could have our watch this video, that would be great. This is the actual results.
Oh. 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 So. So.
Oh. 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 Oh.
Let's get these. You can have a lunch if you'd like to. People love it because you can switch and then looking like the idea of like, and particularly in that last one, it feels like you're really an idiot. It's innocuous to me. You can see that these children are very young. They're very, very young. So this is an example of psychology trying to come up with experiments for kids who can't fill in questionnaires, who can't answer questions yet. But who are already trying to help other people. You know, he's doing quite complex gymnastics. He's going, he needs to open that door, his hands are full, he can't do it, I need to do it. You know, there's quite a lot going on there, even at that young age. And they're doing it without reward, they're not going, you know, giving it either. You know, they're doing it to support sort of positive things in us really, really, really early on that we want to help other people. So this isn't going to happen. I don't have the budget for it. But this is another psychology experiment, it's quite famous. What they do is they get you in a room like this, and they have smoke start to come in. And and everybody else in the room is a stooge, like part of the experiment, and they all just carry on writing. And you're sitting there like, and you start doing that thing, and you're like, you know, you're trying to point it out, and they watch and see what people do, and whether people actually move. Most of the time, people stay until they would have been burned alive in this real fire. Series. Yeah. And because look at that. Because if everybody else around you is similar to this one other person, people will like, but if it's a larger group, it tends to go along with other people. And they're doing it because we think they know more than us. So people are quite likely to do what other people do. It's like, you know, that simple thing in a shopping centre. You stand in a shopping centre and do this, some people will come up and join you. Right? You know, keep an eye on what other people are doing, tend to copy them, that's how we learn. And not always the case, there are different, maybe different instances, general instances. And when do we help? Like, you might have seen sometimes where you've helped someone, sometimes where you haven't helped, why you might help, why you might not. When we're helping, there's actually quite a lot going on. We've got to see that something's happened, so you've got to notice it first. You've got to think, uh-oh, there's a problem, I need to help someone, it's an emergency. You've got to feel like you can do something. You've got to decide to do it, you've got to plan to do it, and you've got to do it. Lots of different things happening when we're trying to help other people. So first of all, you've got to notice that something's happening. So when you're alone, if you're in this room and the smoke's coming in, you notice the smoke within 5 seconds. In a group, it takes you longer to really notice. Maybe that's because we've got a norm like do your own stuff. You know, if they're sitting writing, we don't tend to kind of be like, you know, learn from school, don't cheat, you know, and people are doing their own thing. So it takes us longer to notice that something's happening if we're in a larger group. We've got to think it's an emergency. If everyone else is sitting there, we quite often think, oh, well, maybe there's something happening. I will say we had a fire alarm at my old university and they used smoke grenades to make it more realistic. And the students still marched down the stairs into the smoke. So, you know, these things do happen in real life. Quite often, if we see other people around, maybe there'd been a phone party the night before, maybe they were used to the, you know, the nightclub or something. But quite often, if other people are doing something, we think, oh, they must know more than me. You know, maybe there's something that I'm not privy to. You've got to feel responsible, decide if that person deserves help. So we help certain people more than others. Quite often we will help family, friends, people we know more than others. And we also, interestingly enough, will help people who look like us more implicitly, like there's a kind of thing, we're more likely to look like you. So that's another thing to consider here. And then you've got to decide if you can help. So if I was to see two big, like, I don't know, Captain America and Iron Man having a fight in the foyer, I'm not going to join that entirely. I'm going to call someone, but I'm not going to get I'm not the right person to help in that way. So you've got to decide if you can help and what you might do to do the helping. And then, as I was saying, you can either help directly, I can go in and start fighting, which I would probably not do, or I could do or I could go get teacher, yes, I'm good fighting, I'm in help. So there's different things we can do there, and then we've got to help. Now, interestingly enough, we know that quite often there's a diffusion of responsibility. If there's loads of people around, you kind of go, well, someone will help them, not me. Whereas if there's only one person, then you're more likely to help because it's all on you. If you help, fine. If you don't help, they're not getting costs. This is why sometimes when there's crises in the street, people will kind of not help because they think that someone else will help them. And interestingly enough, I was down in London a while ago, and I was on the embankment, and there was a bomb scare. So I was in just down from the embankment. There's like a coffee shop, and I was sitting having coffee. Someone runs in and starts saying, "Oh my gosh, we've all got to get out! Quick, quick, quick!" So we got out, and everyone was trotting along the embankment. They closed the bridge over to the House of Parliament. It was all very serious. And we got to the, that little plastic rope they put up, and everybody stopped. I was like, "What are you doing?" If there's a real, I was well out of there. I was miles away, really quickly. I just thought, isn't that wild? But there was that one line, that plastic ribbon. People were like, "Safe now." We're going to start taking photos. I was well out of there. I did not go back. It was an old unspoken well water bomb, actually, right? But it was very interesting to see how there was the panic. Everybody running, pushing each other out of the way. Something like now, safe, kind of plastic. Yeah, so that's a bit of a sign there, but huge responsibility, but we don't always take responsibility. And generally, this is my last point here. If there is a bullying incident at work, school, anywhere, you can see the number of people, like this is typically, like, let's say, pastoral workplace. This is kind of the percentage of people who are typically showing the bullying behaviour. It's quite a small number of people, but you can see there's quite a lot of assistance. These people aren't necessarily bullying themselves, but they're the ones who maybe are helping out with the bullying, maybe keeping the teacher away, maybe kind of poking the bear a little bit, winding the other kid up. They're the kind of not doing the bullying necessarily, but not really stopping it. These guys are the defenders. These are the superheroes who are stepping in and going, "No, you can't do that." They're either going in and stopping it themselves, or they're going and telling the teacher. And then we have, victims of the bullying. Again, relatively small number. And these guys are the, "Oh, I'm not doing that. Nothing to do with me. I'm just going to keep walking." We've all been that person. It does happen. But you can see here, if these guys were to join in with the victims and the defenders, then they would be making up more than half of the space. So that is how these guys are the ones we quite often look at in intervention centres. We don't want to get involved. We think it's not our job. And we've all done it. But of course, we can all be better. We can be the ones who stand and we can be the ones who are turning into superheroes and making a change. So superheroes are generally pro-social. They help other people. They don't tend to bystand. They're the ones who are running towards the problems. They're the ones who are making that decision, who are helping. So last little quote here from Jim Gordon: "You are going to make a difference. A lot of times it won't be huge, it won't be visible even, but it will matter just the same." So my call to you guys is to go out and all these superheroes and have a powerful time protecting each other. And that is everything from me. Thank you so much for coming on. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for coming. It's the last day of Doors Open Day tomorrow. We have 3 more talks on then. If you want to check out anything else, go to the website. It's on the flyers outside and over there. Yeah, thank you.